us here today for the 2015 Atlantic Hurricane Season Outlook. After remarks from our speakers, we will provide a Q&A session, and I will help moderate that, alternating questions between those in the room and on the call. In addition to our speakers, we have Dr. Jerry Bell here in the room. He is the lead seasonal forecaster with NOAA's Climate Prediction Center. Right now, I'd like to introduce Mayor Landrieu to get us started. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and good morning. Dr. Kathryn Sullivan, it's great to have you with us, and all of our partners from NOAA, and to Joe Nimmich, who is the FEMA Deputy Administrator, and to our local FEMA folks that are with us. And thank you for all of our emergency preparedness team from the city of New Orleans and for the region that always do such an unbelievable job when we are preparing ourselves for things that we know are coming our way. We always hope that we're not going to have very much. We hope for the best and prepare for the worst. This is the space where a lot of that work gets done in partnership with our federal and regional partners. So we're here to discuss the 2015 Atlantic hurricane season. Every year it's important to start off with the acknowledgement that we are much, much better off today than we were 10 years ago. As we come upon the 10th anniversary of Katrina, the questions always asked us, are we stronger? Are we more resilient? Are we better? After $14.5 billion, the hurricane structures that we have, the emergency preparedness preparations that we have all gotten better at, I can say without fear of contradiction that we are far better off than we were 10 years ago, and we are ready to deal with whatever comes our way. Of course, not only is it important to have the infrastructure in place, not only is it important for our teams to be forward-looking and ready, but it's also important for the citizens to have a plan. This is the most critical part of any storm season, no matter when it comes or how it comes. If you don't have a plan to deal with it, everything that we do is going to be much, much more difficult. So as the season comes upon us, we can again ask the citizens of the metropolitan area to make sure that you have everything that you need. You've been through this many, many, many times before. Again, we're going to hope for the best and plan for the worst. But as I've said, New Orleans is a very resilient city. We've come through Katrina, Rita, Ike, Gustav, the national recession, the BP oil spill, like I like to say. I mean, come hell or high water, and we've had both. We need to really kind of get ready to make sure that we are prepared for whatever comes our way. I want to ask everybody to visit ready.noaa.gov to learn more about it and NOAA Ready results. We have a lot of work to do, but we have learned lessons from the past. And I think I can say without a fear of contradiction that NOAA and FEMA and the city and the regional partners are much better coordinated than we have been in the past. And the benefits are paying off. If we can continue to work really, really hard, if we can continue to be prepared, if we can continue to protect ourselves, then the growth that we've seen in the city in the last 10 years, which has been quite spectacular, will continue. The new New Orleans way is about bringing everybody together, federal, state, and local authorities, making sure that vertically and horizontally we're integrated, we're communicating, there's clear command and control, clear communication, clear interoperability. That gives us a chance to respond as quickly to the difficult things that we know will come our way. I couldn't be more thrilled to have our partners in NOAA and FEMA with us today, so please help me welcome Dr. Kathryn Sullivan, who's going to speak, and then she'll be followed by Joe Nimmich, who's from FEMA. Dr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and let me add my thanks to all of you for joining us today, and extend my appreciation to the mayor and his team for their hospitality. Your mayor has never wavered in his commitment to build that better, stronger, more resilient New Orleans. It does indeed show the way you approach these kind of hazardous seasons. I also want to add one other person to the welcome list, and that's Ken Graham, the meteorologist in charge of NOAA's Weather Forecast Office out in Slidell, Louisiana. Ken is living the New Orleans way as well, really committed to engaging community and civic leaders in preparedness for severe weather. I'm going to do two things here in my remarks. I'm going to walk you through what the statistics say we can expect in terms of the outlook for this season. And then I want to highlight some very important changes in our scientific forecast system that we use at NOAA to predict hurricanes and tell you where they're going, and some of the information products that you and folks from the region will see So let me echo and reinforce what the mayor just said. Now is the time to start thinking ahead about the season that's opening with this month. You've got to get ready. You've got to talk about your preparedness with your team. You've got to get that plan ready before the bad events are bearing down on you. Every one of us here today plays an instrumental role in the process it takes to get the city and a family and community ready for severe events. It's a chain of events that starts with the moment that severe weather is first predicted, goes on to when a first warning comes out telling you that you're in the hazard zone, proceeds to when local officials, like the folks who work in this room, have to get started positioning response assets, ordering evacuations. And then on the back end, if need be, when folks like Joe Nimmich and his teams come on in to help hard-hit communities begin to rebuild. And that whole chain of events involves researchers developing technology to detect severe events earlier and predict the course of those events with ever greater confidence. In the case of hurricanes, it involves NOAA pilots who fly right into the teeth of the storm to collect critical data. It includes all of you, members of the media, who play a critical role in conveying information out to the public. Emergency managers here in the city and in the region that will help communities and neighborhoods prepare, and the response team that sweep in to help folks deal with the consequences of the catastrophe. And every one of those links in that chain, as the mayor said, really need to be tightly coupled, tightly linked, understanding each other and communicating and working together absolutely seamlessly. I share his confidence that today this chain of actors, this chain of communications, and every one of the links in it is better prepared, better able to take care of American people and people in both regions than ever before. At my agency at NOAA, we've made great strides in improving our science-based services to help enhance every stage of that preparedness equation, from the early detection to better accuracy to smarter communications. And that brings us to today, to present the 2015 Atlantic hurricane season outlook. This is most importantly just a reminder to us all that we're on the doorstep of the Atlantic season, and we've got to be ready for whatever comes. No matter how many pitches Mother Nature throws at us, from only a few to a whole lot, if just one of those pitches gets through the strike zone, we can be in for a lot of trouble. So it's not a question of how many pitches might she throw, it's a question of how ready are we for any pitch that comes to our strike zone. For 2015, NOAA predicts the Atlantic hurricane season will have a range of 6 to 11 tropical storms. Those are storms with top sustained winds of at least 39 miles an hour. 3 to 6 of those storms will become hurricanes with top sustained winds of at least 74 miles an hour. And maybe 0 or possibly 2 of those hurricanes will grow to major strength, that's category 3 or higher, with top sustained winds of at least 111 miles an hour. Those ranges and those numbers are below average for a hurricane season. I want to emphasize again, below average doesn't mean no pitches get thrown our way. 1992 was a below average season as well. We talked to the folks in South Dade County about how Andrew affected them for decades after its landfall. I want to emphasize also that this statistical forecast is not a prediction of landfall. No way to predict which, if any of these storms might make landfall. Driving the outlook this year, most importantly, is the El Nino phenomenon, which has developed in the Pacific Ocean and is expected to last through the end of the calendar year. El Nino has the effect of suppressing hurricane activity in the Atlantic in a couple of ways. One is it increases the amount of wind shear and the sinking motion in the atmosphere. Wind shear can tend to tear a storm apart. Both factors inhibit storm formation and inhibit the intensification of storms. Also of note, our scientists predict that the sea surface temperatures in the key portions of the Atlantic will be about normal, not as warm as they were the last couple of years, so less energy from the ocean helping to drive storms as well. Those forecast ranges that I cited represent a below average season, and the center of the ranges are also below the average. This is the highest probability of low activity season that it's been in one of our outlooks since about 1998. But again, please emphasize in your coverage that a predicted low intensity or low activity season, again, doesn't mean Mother Nature's not going to throw some pitches at us. It doesn't mean that not slack off and not be ready for whatever may come our way. The message remains prepare. Think ahead, remember the season that's coming, get your plan ready, be prepared to respond. You know, 100 years ago, this September, Crescent City was hit with a Category 5 hurricane that took the lives of 275 people and caused widespread destruction. 50 years later, almost to the day, the city was ravaged again by Hurricane Betsy in 1965. That was the first hurricane to rack up over $1 billion of damage, which today would be $9.8 billion in 2010 dollars, most of which occurred in your state, Louisiana. And what still feels, I'm sure, to many of you, like only just yesterday. The Gulf Coast, including this city, was ravaged by the costliest and third most deadly hurricane ever recorded, with nearly 2,000 lives lost and over $100 billion in property damage. Katrina is the standout in the level of destruction and pain that storm caused. But each of these remind us of the devastating power of Mother Nature, and we need to let that burn into our minds. The reason that it's so important that we get it right, what the cost is of getting it wrong, the cost is of not being prepared. And it's those realities that challenge all of us, especially us at NOAA, to make sure that we're doing everything we can, not only to put out scientifically better forecasts each year, but to be smarter about the way we put those out so that they're easier to understand, and they connect more closely to the kind of decisions the emergency managers in this room have to make as a storm bears down, but also that folks out on the ground have to make. So, starting off with new things that are coming this season, this kind of environmental intelligence that NOAA puts out, actionable, timely information that you can use to guide your actions, depends really on two things. It takes real-time observations of the Earth and the atmosphere, and it takes really advanced computer models. And we strive really hard to keep both of those always at the cutting edge. This season, we'll have the benefit of new updates that we've made just in the past few months to our operational computing capability. And that's let us introduce an upgraded hurricane forecast model called HWRF, that's capable of making better use of our aircraft reconnaissance data. We are really excited to see how this new model will help us and help you prepare for and respond to hurricanes. It has really sharpened the accuracy of track forecasts, and particularly when we've done the testing on it, it has shown a 5% improvement in intensity forecasts, which has been real tough enough to crack hurricane forecasting for quite some time. We'll also be relying more than ever before on our Doppler, our airborne Doppler radar. This is the stinger that sticks out the back of NOAA's P-3 aircraft. When they fly through the storm, it makes vertical profiles of the structure of the storm that are really critical to helping us model and therefore predict hurricane track and intensity. So that's number one, a new upgraded hurricane model that has shown significant improvement in both track and intensity forecasting. Second thing I want to highlight is work we're doing to make sure that we translate, we know it, help you translate that into what it's going to mean to me and what do I do about that. Here we've brought together our National Ocean Service with our National Weather Service. You know, we talk about the wind and we see all the reporters being blown off with beach shots on TV when a hurricane is coming in. But storm surge is always the greater threat to life in a hurricane. It is the water that kills, not the wind in a hurricane. With this new hurricane season, we'll be introducing a new storm surge watch and warning graphic put out by our Hurricane Center that's designed to highlight areas along the Gulf and Atlantic coasts that are most at risk of life-threatening inundation by storm surge during these severe weather events. And you see an illustration, an example of that kind of graphic for the New Orleans and related Gulf Coast up on the screen right now. And for those communities that are facing that vulnerability from storm surge, we'll also have online storm surge inundation maps that quantify the expected inundation level. In other words, instead of saying the storm surge will be 3 feet above mean low-level water, so if you or any of us know what mean low-level water is, or where your house is compared to mean low-level water. These will be maps that show you your neighborhood, your location, and simple to understand color-coded levels of how deep the water will likely be at your location if this surge comes ashore. We debuted this tool last year. It proved out quite well during the season, and we're pleased to be able to expand it into more general use this year. And finally, NOAA's mission mandates go beyond just looking at Mother Nature and what she might do. It includes looking at our communities and providing information that can help our communities be more economically resilient. And a place like New Orleans, in this section of the Gulf Coast, reliable, safe shipping is one of the key factors. So earlier this month, two of our nation's most economically critical shipping hubs here in the Gulf Coast were equipped with new NOAA multi-sensor systems that allow pilots and captains from the smallest vessels to the largest navigate more safely and load their vessels more efficiently. Again, this is a product of NOAA's National Ocean Service. It's called the PORTS system, PORTS, Physical Oceanography Disclosure Rapid Real-Time System. And it provides water levels, currents, and wind speeds at the location real time. This would be at Port Fourchon and at Morgan City, direct to the bridge of ships that are transiting those ports, so they can have greater confidence that they've got enough water underneath the keel, and they can also load their vessel to the maximum possible level and still stay safe. Each of these efforts to improve NOAA's forecasting and predictive abilities fits within our goal of providing the products and services that make all of our partners and the citizens we serve better equipped to make active decisions that are necessary to protect their lives and livelihoods and bolster their resilience in the face of weather-related challenges. And we're closer to reaching our goals than ever before, thanks to the hard work of our own folks and our many key collaborators, including the Weather Ready Nation ambassadors. Of course, the hard work that drives our preparedness also encompasses our colleagues here in this room at the New Orleans Emergency Operations Center and many other end users that are responsible for mobilizing resources before disasters strike. And that brings me to my good friend and colleague, Joe Nimmich, the Deputy Director of FEMA. During what is fittingly National Hurricane Preparedness Week, we always partner with Joe to make sure that, as your mayor said, we're looking ahead, we're thinking ahead, we have a plan, and we are prepared. Joe?
Mayor Landrieu and Dr. Sullivan, thank you very much for recognizing, and FEMA is proud to be a partner with both of you. Mayor Landrieu, I think you know that FEMA has been active since Katrina, and you and Administrator Fugate, probably two of the best partners in trying to understand how to be prepared, but also how to recover from disasters. Administrator Fugate sends his regards. He's in Miami with the President to make his announcement tomorrow. Well, Dr. Sullivan's tried to give you the good news that it's a lower than average hurricane season. FEMA is always here to tell you there's a possibility that it may be a disaster, whether it's one or none. We're already starting the season off with the first named storm having come before this season. Anna made landfall in South Carolina a mere 2 weeks ago as a tropical storm. You in Louisiana know as well as anyone that it doesn't take a hurricane to create a disaster. Tropical storms, just unnamed storms, can all provide the basis on which your infrastructure and your lives are at risk. It all comes down to being prepared to leave, being prepared to stay if necessary and survive until responders can come and support you. Now is the time. There's no question about it. You all are probably some of the best at understanding now is the time to be prepared. We have a unique situation as we face this hurricane season, that with the exception of Governor Jindal, not a single governor in a state that's normally impacted by hurricanes has experienced a hurricane. We've had a low of landfall hurricanes. That creates a great deal of concern that we've become complacent. And the only way to overcome complacency is to think about, work for, and be prepared. And this is a community preparedness, not just the federal government or the state government or the city government. It has to go down to the individual, the individual's community, to the individual's faith-based organizations, that you look out for each other. If you're prepared, ensure your neighbor's prepared. Ensure that they have, in fact, taken the necessary precautions to know when they should evacuate and where they will evacuate to. What Dr. Sullivan presented is a good visualization that has often been difficult for people to understand. Will they be impacted by the storm surge or won't they? The visualization now tells you, yes, you will, or no, you won't. If you will, where do you go? You need to think about that now. You need to think about it for yourselves, and you need to think about it for your neighbors. If in fact it looks like you're not, that doesn't mean it's over. You may not have electricity, you won't have air conditioning, you won't have those things that make life simple. You need to be prepared for that. You need to have food and water for at least 72 hours until the infrastructure can be set up that provides that additional support from the city, from the state, from the federal government. Prepare now. You need a kit, you need a plan, and quite frankly, you need to execute that plan because you may not have used it in a while. The roads you may have intended may have changed. The locations you planned on going to that may have been a safe haven, depending on the nature of the storm and the direction of the storm, may no longer be a safe haven. You need to think of multiple locations, and if there's nothing else we learned from Katrina, we need to evacuate. The mayor has taken a great deal of time and effort to ensure that there's an evacuation plan here in New Orleans that takes into consideration those that don't have transportation, those that may be medically challenged, those that have disabilities. We have one of the best evacuation plans in the nation, but you need to use it. An evacuation plan that isn't used will not prevent any loss of life. Not evacuating means you put first responders at risk. We had a first responder in Oklahoma lost his life trying to rescue a driver that went through high water. These are people that dedicate themselves to you. You can help them by doing simple preparation so you don't put their lives at risk. You need to know your risks. We're helping provide that information more thoroughly. You need to take action when the risks are real, and you need to be prepared. One of the challenges we often have, and Dr. Sullivan and I were talking about this, is the work that she does and that the Weather Service does is predictive. That means it's the best information they have available. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. We predict the outcome of a football season before it ever starts. We predict who's going to win each game, and often the predictions aren't accurate. What the predictions will give you is a good sense of the risk you face and the actions you need to take to address those risks. If the risks don't materialize, you've exercised your plan. You're in a good place. If the risk materialize, you've taken action and you are no longer at risk. Remember not to take for granted the fact that sometimes predictions don't materialize to the level that you may have expected. That doesn't mean you can become complacent and discount the risk that you face. You need to be prepared. You need to know where you're going to get your information. There's tremendous amounts of capability for smart devices. There's also news devices. Know where you're going to get your information and access it frequently. Prepare your home and workplace that you can leave. Know where you're going to put your valuables. Develop a communication plan. More often than not, we don't know where our relatives are at a certain time, and we don't know, and therefore we take additional risks to check on those members of our family. Know where your families are, and know how to get in touch with them. And finally, make sure you take your important papers. You're going to have damage after a hurricane. You're going to want to know where your insurance papers are, your health papers are, so that people who want to help you can help you as quickly as possible. It's time to collect and ensure that you're ready now. During this season, we invite the families, friends, individuals, communities, and businesses to participate in America's Prepare-a-thon. Go to ready.gov and understand how you can help others as well as yourself. If for no other reason, visit ready.gov to understand what is expected of you so that you're not part of the problem, you're part of the solution. As Dr. Sullivan said, it only takes one pitch to get through to be a strike. But if we hit every pitch out of the park by being prepared, we'll win the game. Thank you all very much.